Hi, everyone, and welcome. This is Krishna Priya, and this is the Human Colony Hucolo Webinar. It's Saturday, the 11th of November. Happy Diwali to everyone who knows what that is. That's the Festival of Lights, and that'll be tomorrow. That's a Hindu holiday celebrating return of Lord Ram from being exiled for 14 years in the forest. He defeated the demon god Ravana, and Ravana represents all of the sort of negative qualities that we have. He defeated anger and hate, and and he found his peace. And in coming back, the celebrations was that his people were so happy to see him, they put lights out for him to light his way. So that's the Festival of Lights, and that's Diwali, and that's today. So happy Diwali, everybody. We have our very special guest and founder of Human Colony, Max Rempel, with us. Hi, Max. How are you?
You always have to say co-founder. Yes, I'm great. Thank you.
Why do I always have to say it? Because it's true and people should know. That's why. Yeah, Max founded, it's been almost 10 years now since Human
Yes,
Colony.
yes, over 10 years.
When was the actual first?
It's was early October. We came online first time.
October 2013.
Yeah, yep.
We should have done an anniversary. We still can.
Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah. Okay, well, this is the first part of our 10-year anniversary with Max being back. So welcome back, Max. You're not
Thank
alone
you.
now. Good to have you here. In the room today, we have a lot of guests. We have Mary, Mike, Angie, Bola, Caroline, Kat, David, Safira, and Wendy. And we're going to start with, why don't we start with announcements and then do blessings, and then we'll go into the Max.
Thank you. Good morning. We have our Hucolo gathering planned. It's our oneness gathering, and it is Thursday, August 8th through Monday, August 12th, 2024. The price is $695. It is all-inclusive gathering, being together with we are all starseeds in one way or another, and this is bringing our starseed families together, oneness, and being there. If you're interested or would like to see the flyer is on our website, humancolony.org, and it is also on our Facebook page, where you can click the link to either get the registration form or the actual flyer. The price is $695 a person because we are still quite a ways out. There is a payment plan offering if you are interested in coming but splitting up the payments. If you're interested in any of this, classes at hucolo.org, and I will get any information out to you.
Perfect. So please definitely come. 2024 August, all of us getting together. Will be the first time for, are you going to come, Max, to the gathering in August?
I will think about it.
Okay.
It's a oneness gathering.
I just recently started. My health kind of restored enough, so I started traveling. I did one travel recently, and until then, for several years, I was sitting in San Diego enjoying the sun.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, well, you come in to Rochester, enjoy the sun for one summer weekend or something. That would be great. So anyway, but I hope you can make it. I'm going to be there, and I'm excited about it. It's coming up. We've been talking about it for 3 or 4 months already, but it's already going to be here before you know it. So
exactly.
Yay. All right. Okay, we'll start with some blessings, and then we'll go to Max. So let's start. Who did I say we were starting with? Wendy. She's got a link, so we'll start with Wendy, and then we'll go to. Does anyone want to do the interpretation of the light language, or we just go for the blessings? It's no problem. Just do Wendy, and then Angie, and then Mike. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, sometimes interpretations come to me, but it can be like a few moments after. But we'll see.
Okay. Well, do your best.
Atohiana taka iunyuru tuhia pahira taka in yachak kriera pa unyuru tuhira na pahira to kuina mahena haikatoru tukiana ma atahine chichikuya mahi. Blessings to
Angie
all
was-
of you. Blessings to all of
go
you.
ahead.
Greetings. And that's okay. Blessings to all of you. Greetings, and have a beautiful ceremony today while you are enjoying. If you are celebrating, and if you are not, the lights are there nonetheless. Enjoy the lights as they are coming. And although the sounds of the I don't know why they're saying this. The sounds of the fireworks may be disturbing. They are nonetheless in celebration, and there is a frequency that is emitted. And so send love to the sound and the frequency for it to spread the joy and the bliss into further realms. Blessings to you all.
Thank you. Okay. Angie?
Atura o to ania te ka ara siti mo o tuara sa atara I te kinira ata ko o ora o tukura sa ne ata ka a no ori I kiyama ata te ka a. Blessings.
Blessings.
Mike?
Okay, Archangel Michael is with me and sends love, light, and healing, and to help the group ground ourselves and imagine grounding our feet to the roots and putting us, the group, in a protective bubble, and nothing that is not of our interest, that is not going to help us. All negative energy is free and out of our beautiful pink hue bubble that is protected by love and light. Blessings.
Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Max, I'm going to put you on spotlight for everybody so we can all see you. And so why don't I just let you get started and to introduce your subjects of what you want to talk about today. You're not going to be channeling, but you'll be speaking as yourself, but talking about some things that are near and dear to your heart at the moment. So
Thank you. Sure. I will start with a little chant just to continue the blessings. And basically how it started, when I was 16, it was I think around 1980, I was walking down the street in Moscow, and it was a starry night. There was stars, and I looked at the stars, and I felt how everything was connected, and I decided that there were two decisions, like choices. One, I will show people how things are interconnected on the supernatural level. And second, I decided that I was from Pleiades. That was a choice. How about I will be from Pleiades? And then skipping forward, I was introduced to Reiki. I was always interested in natural healing, and my grandfather was herbalist, professor of chemistry and herbalist, physical chemistry. And I was treated, when I was a child, I was treated by a healer, Russian native, natural, traditional, old woman, a herbal woman. She was speaking some mantras in Russian, I know ancient Russian, and I was treated when I was like maybe 3 years old. So I remember that. And when I was about 2000, I was about whatever it was. I was born 64, so it's 36 years old. I was treated by a Russian, Ukrainian Reiki healer. She didn't say Reiki, but it was pretty much Reiki with candlelight. So she was working with a candle. And then I further went into Reiki, trying to combine it with my science, which is chemistry of DNA and biophysics. And then I was reading lots of books on that. And then in 2009, I was closing the book, which was called The Field by McTaggart, not Christian, someone else, McTaggart. And
Lynn McTaggart?
yeah, Lynn? Second?
Hello?
Yeah, Lynn? I think Lynn McTaggart. And I was closing that book. It was, I think, my birthday, or just before my birthday, February 2009. And then I thought, if that is all true, that she was talking about the field, how about I check out the aliens? And I Googled aliens on YouTube and everywhere else. And immediately there was a recognition of the faces and of their vibrations, and I was non-stop researching for half a year, and then I had to take a break because it was just too much. And I looked for channelers. I found Bashar right away. So very early on I found Bashar. So that was channeling, introduction to channeling, and the law of one. And then I found physical channeler, and that was like spiritualist church. I think it's called spiritual. Correct me if it's wrong, but there is a spiritualist church in Rochester, New York. Maybe there is a little where they do channeling sessions. And then I went there, and I asked the question there, why everything I do in science goes nowhere. I sort of come very close to some discoveries, and then something happens that blocks my path forward. And they said, oh, you in the next life you will be designing a species. That was very disappointing. I was thinking that in this life I would be achieving something. But basically this was just a practice for the next life. I have to learn how humans function. And then I would design some better humans, I guess. So I'm still like kind of taking that seriously. I'm studying humans. And then Reiki is circled by, I'm blanking on the name in Rochester. DS? Give me the name. I mean,
Deborah Snyder. Debbie Snyder?
Yeah, Snyder, yeah. And what's her husband's name? Jerry Snyder.
Yes.
Yeah, Jerry Snyder is having, I think they still have the Friday Reiki circles, and that's an amazing spiritual phenomenon. People come 5 to 10 to 20 people, and there were 3 or 4 Reiki beds, and that was an amazing reunion. And there Jim was, and when I think I was doing, I think Jim was doing Reiki on me, or I was doing Reiki on Jim. I was doing Reiki on Jim first, we connected, then he was doing Reiki on me, and then this dude, the tall gray, started speaking through Jim, saying, hey Max, we are watching you for a while. And because I was so much into channeling already, by that time already wrote a book about the aliens, and about tall grays, short grays, and everybody else. I wrote a book and published. It was 2012 I published the book in December, and then 2013, like a few months later, 2013 spring, I think May or June, I met Jim in Gary Snyder's Reiki Circle, and then we started talking. And when we started talking, the first thing I said was, I would like to visit. I volunteer to visit you guys. Take me on your ship, I want to visit. I was prepared. I was ready for that. I was waiting for them to come in contact. For me, it was just natural. I know that I have to apply, so I'm applying for a visit. I know they have bureaucracy, so I have to write an application and have it reviewed. And the first answer was, oh yeah, we can take a physical, biochemical tests from you. Do you mind? And I said, I grant you the permission. And next morning, I woke up on my front right side, right here. There was how do you call it, this shape?
L.
Yeah, an L shape, yes, and it was an L shape of 4 dots here, 3 dots here. And it stayed with me for half a year. It looked like bee bites, but it stayed for half a year, so every time I had doubt that happened, it was there. So they did some skin test, I guess. But they did take me, at least I didn't remember any visits. And then we did all the channels after that. I had a dictaphone recorder, the magnetophone recorder, tape recorder, and all the sessions were recorded. And soon I started publishing them. And soon I started publishing them on YouTube. And soon we went, in October, we went live on YouTube. And Safira was there, and then went from there. Jim started channeling, I was asking questions, and we did more sessions in between. I recorded them and published. Skipping forward, we did some workshops. We went together physically. There were, I think, 2 Rochester, New York workshops, 1 Sedona workshop, and then I continued the research. I wrote a couple more books. One of the books I wrote that summer, actually, I wrote that summer 2013. Before we went public, I wrote a book. It's called I'm blanking the name.
From the Galaxy of Love?
No, that's the third one. There was a previous one. Welcome to Earth. It was Welcome to Earth, the Guide for Aliens. I basically explained to Dizdu and friends why we got to that point and why we are so unusual, obnoxious, incomprehensible. What makes us this way? I mean, a huge part of that was the conspiracy theories and explaining why things went this way, but there was much more than that. That's basically the nature of lie on the planet and how it penetrates everything, deception, and absence of telepathy or inhibition of telepathy and things of that sort. And then I developed a plan how we would start the colony or start multiple colonies in space, and where we would develop the conversation, and then that conversation would help healing their civilization on the planet. All right, skipping forward, I went camping in Toronto sometime, I don't remember, 2016 maybe, and no, sooner, it was 13, 14, 15 maybe. And then a boy, I barely spoke to him before or after, but we started playing badminton with the boy, a son of the friends, and the only meaningful phrase that he said, "Why don't you write your next book?" No, why you don't write your next book? That's what he said. And at that time I already knew that these messages don't come at random, so I wrote the next book, which is From the Galaxy with Love, and Jim has copies, physical copies, and it's online. From the Galaxy with Love, Jim and Rempel, Jim Charles and Rempel. If you just Google on Amazon, you will see it. And I made the audio version of the book, and if you need, if you like a free copy, electronic or audio, just email me, I will answer to you. The easiest way to find me is through hucolo.org or through maxrempel.com. Okay, what else is happening? Then I researched a lot, lots of channelers, lots of physics, and I came to Ram Das. I came through mushrooms. I came to first Terence McKenna, then mushrooms, and then Ram Das. It was in parallel, but first it was immersion of Terence McKenna, and then in Krishna Das, and then in Ram Das. And then I started a year ago, I started preparing a talk on Ram Das for the local yoga studio. And somehow they dragged and waited, so it took me a half a year to prepare the talk just because they couldn't schedule the time. So every day I was kind of preparing it and developing, and Ram Das is very profound, and there is a lot of Ram Das's recordings on YouTube. So every time I had come with certain concept of the presentation on Ram Das, I would listen to another talk of his, and it would flip it over, and it would happen like almost every week. The talk would flip over. So it becomes very mysterious, supernatural. There is a conversation between me and the universe, and every time I try to conceptualize Ram Das, it flips over, it evades my conceptualization. It's much bigger than something you can present as a simple concept in a simple presentation. To tune into Ram Das's energy, I would just read the dates of his life. And that sort of kind of connects to physicality of his life. His was pretty physical in many ways. So he was born April 6, 31. He got a PhD from Stanford before 57. Met his scientific advisor, David McClelland, in 57. He was 26 at that time. He was hired at Harvard as a faculty member in 58. He was 27 at that time. He met Timothy Leary, their preacher of LSD, and tried LSD very soon. And they started the psychedelic. They started a psychedelic project in Harvard, research project, and they were kicked out of Harvard in 1963. He was 32 at the time. He went to India in 67. 4 years later, he was 36 at the time. He met their Neem Karoli Baba and was basically transformed, awakened in many ways. He published his book Be Here Now in 1971. He was 40. He spoke non-stop starting from 1963 to 1967. He was a preacher of psychedelics and primarily LSD, and starting from India trip 1967 to 1997, for 30 years he was speaking, and most of his talks were recorded. And as a person who respects microphones, he was recording these talks with exceptional sound quality. I'm not sure if it was him or others, but the sound quality was exceptional. So we listen to him now, and his talks from the 70s have a better sound quality than what we have now on Zoom. And anyway, his talks are extraordinary, and there is lots of them. And now they've been kind of published by the foundation, Be Here Now Foundation, and they still release old tapes online. So in 97, when he was 66, I'm now, I think 60, right? I'm approaching 60. I will be 60 in February. So he was 7 years older than me. In 97, when he was 66, he got a stroke. And after the stroke, he lost his exceptional gift of a speaker. He became, from exceptional speaker, he became a very poor speaker. He was not only speaking slowly, he would forget words. He couldn't come up with words. They were like evading him. And with that, he lived another 22 years. And he died in 2019 when he was 88. And to me, as I see it now, he was the biggest spiritual influence on the Western civilization, and now because the whole world is a Western civilization essentially. He was the biggest spiritual teacher of the modernity. I think his influence was the biggest compared to others in the modernity. And that's about it. I would maybe pronounce the main message of his, which is unity. And there are ways to reach that unity, and then it's pretty complex from any point. I mean, he was traveling non-stop, and he was exposed to all sorts of teachings, and he was friends with channelers, and he was pretty deeply immersed in channeling for several years, around, I will say when, early 90s and I think late 80s. And he was a student asking questions, and channelers would give him the answer. So he was also into channeling. But from all complexity of spiritual science, of metaphysics, he would come back to the unity with God, which could be defined as everything. Unity, undivided, absolute. Yeah, absolute, undivided, absolute. Absolutely united, everything. All that is. And there is a lot about his teacher, Guru Neem Karoli Baba. And now I'm reading the book. I'm 60% through his book, which is called Book About Him with Stories About Neem Karoli Baba. The book is called The Miracle of Love by Ram Das. There is lots of books. If you just search for Miracle of Love Neem Karoli Baba, you will find more than 4 books. But one of them is authored by Ram Das, and that's the one which is I'm reading, and it's amazing, extraordinary. So that's I would recommend it highly. At that point, I invited discussion. I'm not claiming to know a lot, and I'm not claiming to be correct, and I'm as lost as ever. But that's beauty of the dance.
Okay, so you had I've loved Ram Dass for a long time, so it's beautiful you're studying him, and also being here in India. I know some of the places now where they were, which is pretty fantastic. So what about Ram Dass's message? Is it the unity message that appeals to you with him? Or is it, because you also you wanted to talk about the path of bhakti.
Yeah.
The path of devotion.
Perfect. Let's talk about bhakti. So bhakti is something that bothers me a lot.
Why?
All right, I will explain. So my friends here, Krishna, how do you call them? Krishnaites?
It depends on are they
Hare Krishnas. Hare Krishnas.
They can be the Vaishnavites.
Hare Krishnas people. I am friends with Maharani Devidasi.
Okay.
And it's a small temple with maybe 10-20 people coming regularly, and they are great, and they are essentially in the bhakti yoga, and there is a lot of other bhakti yogis around, and it's about devotion without mindless devotion. Essentially, you turn off your mind, and the main teaching is turn off your mind and be devoted to the divine, to Krishna, to divine. And it hasn't been my path until now. I'm still sort of trying to wiggle around and keep the mind in the picture. I want to integrate the mind into the spiritual art. And for me as a researcher, if you turn off the mind, you become gullible. And, gullible is not a good thing for me. Like, you lose the truth. You lose the absolute truth. So for me, the search of truth is essential. And I like to build a logical mind structure plus intuitive mind plus maybe including or plus divine inspiration, channeling. It's still included in intuitive. So logical plus intuitive bring you to truth, plus work. And just blind faith is questionable to me. Yet, Neem Karoli Baba and Ram Das somehow are from that tradition. Their main message is Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti meaning devotional yoga. So Neem Karoli Baba is pretty much either incarnation of Hanuman or very close to Hanuman yogi. And to understand the message of Ram Das, we need to look at the main Hanuman legend, myth about Hanuman. And Jim actually channeled Hanuman, and that was a pretty highly developed being from essentially monkey race, humanoid monkeys, from another galaxy. And he kind of got stuck here and enjoyed the early days of life on this planet, when Ram and Sita were here. And he was a friend. What? Say again?
That was a different yuga. That was in the different yuga.
Yeah.
And we're in, yes.
Different yuga. Like a yuga is roughly 25,000 years, so it's very long time ago. Maybe before Atlanteans yet. So Ram and Sita, Hanuman was a servant of Ram or a friend of Ram who was helping him. And at some point Hanuman became so highly developed spiritually that Ram, the universal God, said, you can stop reincarnating, you can come and merge with me, and we become one, we reunite. And Hanuman said that I'm enjoying so much that state just before the merging, the state of devotion where I'm very close to you and all my thoughts are about you. I'm the closest entity that performs your wishes. Basically, I'm your hands or slave or servant. That position of being the closest intermediary of you in the physical is my best desire. So I would not merge with you. I would remain very close, but not passing the threshold. Mm-hmm. And that's essentially as I understand, the main idea of Bhakti Yoga is to be devoted to the absolute God, but not merging with it, being focused on serving it. And when I see Ram Das's teachings, in most cases the movement of his logic, he is very logical, he is a scientist, by the way, and a very advanced scientist, and all his life he continues his research into the divine, And all the time, from all the positions in his research or from the questions of the audience, he would bring back the idea of merging and aiming into merging into the divine, into God, into the universal unity. Why am I hesitant still to accept bhakti? I realize that service is huge for me. I'm just.
Can I interrupt you for a second, Max? You
Go ahead.
don't have to. You have yan yoga, which is the mental yoga, which is what you like, the logical, the science. That's yan yoga, jnana yoga,
Yeah, Gyan, yep.
And the thing is what they say is it's not that you have the Vaishnavites who look at Krishna like people who are born again Christians look at Jesus. They're just blindly devoted to Krishna. They don't want to hear anything about Shiva. They don't want to know anything about these other. It's just Krishna, Krishna. And for them, that is just a way their bhakti, the bhav, the devotion is just that. But it's not, there is no judgment of that you need to have, with your yan yoga, as you become closer to the understanding of the truth of who you are through your logical mind, the devotion to want to serve is definitely born out of God. And so it's not like you have to say, oh, I have to become a bhakti yogi. Because bhakti yogi without intelligence, as you said, you can be very gullible. So one is not better than the other. There's many different yogas. There's yan yoga, there's karma yoga, there's bhakti yoga, there's raja yoga, there's all of these different yogas. Being married is a yoga. Living in the world is a yoga. And so you don't have to be one versus the other. And you don't have to feel like, oh, my devotion to God is not strong enough because I don't identify like a Vaishnavite. But if you are seeking God through your mind, Hinduism is a science. They look at it as a science. If you're seeking through that, your devotion will develop, but it doesn't mean that you have to be devoted to the absence of the mind. And the thing with Hanuman is Hanuman had moments where he knew that he was divine. And what he said to Ram is, he says, when I know that I am you, when I know myself as you, I am you. When I don't know myself as you, I serve you. And he went back and forth, just like we all do, of moments of true clarity of who he was as a divine being. And then the moments when he forgot, the moments when he was thinking, I am my body, I'm this guy, I'm this monkey man running around on the earth. Then his devotion to Ram was so deep. But it wasn't just one or the other. And so whereas like the Vaishnavites say that Krishna is it, the Vedantas say there's nothing but God. Everything is God. So there is no separation. There is no unity. And that's what Ram Das was talking about a lot of times. And that's what me and Corley Baba talked about, is that there's nothing but God. It's not like there's God here. We are all God. We're all part of it. And there's everything in the universe that is that. I am that. I am the great I am, that I am that devotion. So I would encourage you not to be intimidated by bhakti, thinking that it has to overwhelm your intelligent mind. It definitely doesn't. And the jnana, the buddhi, the mind, is where you are, is where you thrive. So your way in is definitely through your mind. And your bhakti is evident. Your bhav is evident. You wouldn't be seeking God your whole life if you didn't have devotion. It just may not look like the Vaishnavites who just, only they have a different way in. It's a lot like born again Christians, but they can be very close to a lot of other ideas that would make a lot of sense. So I would say don't put yourself down in any way. You're definitely on the right path. You're definitely on the right path.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with everything. I want to develop that idea in a couple more directions. Obviously, there is always temptation, especially from Christianity and Judaism, to make an agreement with God and develop a relationship where I give you my devotion and you give me everything else, health and stuff. And that's very natural for humans. I think it's programmed in us by the aliens which created us. And I think it's very natural for even animals, like dogs, developing a relationship with a superior, a very hierarchical relationship. So when I see bhakti, devotional service, it is the problem with bhakti as a devotion is that you give away some of your free will in exchange for, again, benefits from serving a higher force. So it has some egotistic component. And I don't think that paradox is solvable. I think it's here as a part of physical life. You are nice to whatever higher force because you seek a benefit either here in physical life or for your spirit in spiritual life. You may be good up there, and if you believe in reincarnations, you think you're optimizing your reincarnational path, thinking that you'll get somewhere faster. Right, so Ram Das teaches and repeats from time to time often that we substitute career path on the physical plane for a career path in the spirit. We give up here the benefits of money and riches and power. We give up physical powers for spiritual powers, but we still are trying to do spiritual career, like accumulating tapas and tapas like capacities and abilities and power, spiritual powers, and optimizing ourselves for spiritual growth. And that's a nice observation, and as many observations of Ram Dass, they are not easily resolvable. It's a paradox. You basically you end up living with that. You can't resolve it. So as a scientist, he and I, we have very high value for finding out the truth and being true to ourselves. And for finding out the truth and being true for ourselves, it's absolutely important to be free. So you cannot really give away any of your free will to God or any other force. You have to actually be absolutely free in your thinking and in your choices. So that's interesting. So we cannot be actually devoted, because devotion includes giving away free will to God. You give a credit of you listen to the voice of God and do whatever it says, right? So you give that credit to God. Now I give you my free will and you guide me, right? So that guidance is against the principle of searching for truth and being free in your choices. Like you become a member of political party and whatever party decides, you follow that, right? Or you become a member of spiritual group and then whatever group decides, you follow that. So if you're a seeker of truth, then you have to be absolutely independent on anything, right? So how that is resolved? Basically, what I hear from, again, Ram Dass and other teachers is that even if you are following the truth only, and even if you true to yourself and do the research, that somehow still leads you to bhakti. That is a paradox. I cannot explain the mechanism of that, but essentially, if you are true and if you avoid lying to yourself and others, then you become in love. You fall in love with the universe, with God, and with pretty much unity. So that's kind of, you go away from bhakti and you come to bhakti from the other side. I think that's a good conclusion to take more questions.
Sure. Safira has a question. Go ahead, Safira.
And if you want to turn on the camera, you're welcome.
Oh my God, no, I don't. One time I turned on, your friend was there chatting with us, the doctor, I can't remember his name.
Dr. Ram? Richard Miller?
Yeah. And I didn't have the camera on, but to speak with him out of being polite, I turned on the camera. And you know what he said? "Woo, you've got less hair than I do, huh?" He was laughing. And I was so embarrassed. I thought, I am never going to turn the camera on again.
Take it easy. Take it easy.
No, anyway, that
was... I'll get bolded here.
Okay.
I can see.
So just last night, I was watching, this is about devotion, continuing on the topic of devotion and motivation for it. I was watching Stargate SG-1, and, you know, they have the Goa'uld, they call them, I guess, they're these evil lords who, you know, they have this extraordinary power, and they have devotees. They have people who will die for them. And I'm watching, I'm like, why are they so devoted? Like they not only, it's not only out of fear, it's like they bow and they're like so devoted. And I'm like, how is that kind of devotion possible? And then I want to bring that up over to people who have had a true born again experience with Jesus, which I did, and can't explain the kind of liberation that was like. It's impossible to explain unless you've had it. So there is that kind of devotion to somebody actually loving you and quote unquote saving you, or like it felt like in that very moment, it felt like 100 bricks. You know, you've heard people say this before, I think, that I felt like all this burden was off my shoulder. I had all these bricks. They felt like they were, you know, liberated. But that's what it was like. And so then I began a life of devotion to Jesus and to growing spiritually from that experience. So one thing, you've had a lot of discussion here about the different types of devotion, bhakti, etc. I would like to hear about bliss. I would like to hear that, because sometimes people who love very deeply, they would love the most evil person in the world because they have this very intense love and devotion to this one person. It wouldn't even matter what they're doing. And it's strange. Like even you see I'm bringing an analogy now where you see the, what was that, Bella and Edward, the new moon, the vampire-human relationships, etc., where, you know, she would have loved him no matter what he did. It was that kind of devotion. So I just like you to bring in the element of love into all of this, because that has to play a part. It's not only a trading, like if I follow Jesus, you know, I go to heaven. That's a typical quote unquote Christian concept. And so I would say that within Christianity, you have the intellectual trading, you have that, you know, contract, that kind of an idea like you were talking about. And then you have the devotion where people are willing to die for him. So there's that level too. And they don't really care about the rewards. I've met people like that. They love Jesus so much, and they will do anything. They will serve anywhere, anyhow, on their bellies. I've even heard somebody say, if you really love God, you know, you're gonna crawl on your belly to serve him if that's what he asks you to do in some situation where it's needed. So Tell me, Max, your experience of bliss in all of this concept of devotion, or what Ram Dass has said about bliss, was what his experience is about bliss, which, spurs another type of devotion. Thank you.
Oh. I guess I'm weak. Yeah, physically weak. I cannot handle a lot of bliss. A lot of bliss make my body sort of fall apart. I'm a hybrid. Soviet system, American system. I'm still working in mainstream. So I deal with a lot of mainstream energies. And as a modern human, I'm so discordant that I cannot handle bliss. So my bliss is very shallow. And the aliens, when they look at my mind, they say, like, my mind is very unusual. I am capable of being very messy, and that's my trademark. My thinking is very messy. Like, in my mind, there is a huge mess. And this way I evade mind control. And I evade being basically very few angels and beings are capable of actually controlling my mind because it's so messy. It's just a randomicity there is huge. I instinctively inhibit all their straight lines there. I inhibit logical connections. So it's all very super intuitive. It's all messy. So that is great for scientific research and it's bad for bliss. So for, like, say, Kundalini awakening, where you have the spiral of energy coming from the bottom of the spine, from the tail to the head. Yeah, I cannot handle it. I just stop it halfway through because it's bad. I cannot tolerate that much of bliss in me. So my bliss is very shallow. And, in this body, that's what I can do. When I get into a presence of actually blissful people, then I lose my mind. I become very normal person. And that I had like a couple days ago. I had a session, and it's so boring to be a normal person. No ideas, very sleepy, I don't understand what happens around. I'm pretty happy, and it's like mind on fog and love and nothing happening actually. I went away from that state instinctively very fast. It was like maybe a day, and then it was very healing, very therapeutic, but I came back to normal. To be interested in this conversation, especially for you guys, I sort of came back to a normal state of like sick agitation, right? Moderately sick agitation. So there is things happening. But I respect that a lot. Lots of people in my yoga studio, lots of people are in bliss much of the time, and they are shining like saints. There is blissful energy there. Yeah, children that were baptized, like there is a joke about the biologist. I don't know if you would understand it. I probably would have to explain it after I say it. But basically, a biologist had two sons. He baptized one and left another one as a control. Essentially, in biology is so poorly predictable. You always do parallel experiments. You have to do two mice or two plants, and you do experiment on one and keep another as a reference as a control. So essentially, if you have like multiple people in the family and some of them are baptized, you can see they are uplifted. And the ones which are not baptized are much more conflicted and possessed with the darkness. Coming back to Ram Dass, he was exceptional, of course. And Nim Karoli Baba was extraordinary. I don't think Nim Karoli Baba was an actual physical being. I think it was more like Hanuman appearing here and there as a physical being, but it was too much, there were too many signs that it was not fully human. It was more like a high energy being appearing as a physical being, because it just too many miracles happened around him, and he would appear in many places at the same time, and he wouldn't remember what happened recently. So he wasn't specifically from this timeline. He was operating in multiple timelines, and as many channeled beings come in here, they have no clue where. They don't remember that they came to us a year ago, because it was, for them, it was too many things happen at once. So somehow you mentioned Jesus. I think any path is good. Any path is fine for the dance. There is no universal prescription for anyone. Every person is, as Bashar says, is in a perfect state. Right now, everything is perfect. They are working the perfect path. And preparing the presentation on Ram Das, I realized that he teaches to accept everything, including evil. And that was huge for me. Like, I was diving in the topic of evil starting from this summer, and now it's already like the middle of the fall. So it was huge, and accepting evil and researching evil and placing evil in a place in the universe is huge. And then you have to accept that it's a part of creation and there is nothing wrong. It's like yin-yang interplay. And now when I research DNA, there is like two strands of DNA going opposite to each other. And if one is yin, another one is yang. If one is light, another one is dark. So basically there is pretty much a perfect place for Shiva and evil in this creation, and especially on this planet, and especially in the end of Kali Yuga. It's perfectly placed here, and the fact that lots of souls are serving Shiva. There is a lot of Shiva tribe here, a lot of souls that play on the dark side. I think it's very natural, and there is nothing wrong with it. We just have to accept it and play with it, and then going from there. Even the choice, we are facing the choice between the contract with light or dark, and the choice is still there, like every time. And there is no right or wrong. That is a very weird take. Like, we think that we are carriers of light, we are light workers, but there are dark workers, and they're mirrors of us. Essentially, my model of the universe is that the dark workers, slaves of darkness, are just us moving in the opposite direction in time. When we create, they destroy because they move in the opposite. Whatever our preference is, their preferences is just the opposite because they move from future to the past. It's a more complex idea, and it's not fully developed by me, but I think we are mirrors, and there is a midline, which is also a very good choice. My favorite movie, it's a TV series now, about the angel and the demon. Good Omens. It's Good Omens. Terrific.
Yes, I'm watching the second season now. Yeah.
Yeah, terrific. And the main message there is a choice of humans, which is a middle line. You don't have to be an angel. You don't have to be a demon. You're walking your middle line, and that's where the spiritual growth happens. You cannot extinguish darkness completely from yourself. The slaves of darkness, they have like 60% of darkness and 40% of light. Light workers might have 40% of darkness and 60% of light. But if you try to kill all the darkness in yourself, you can't exist on this plane anymore. I'm still inviting everybody to turn the cameras. You are being broadcasted, and your faces actually are very important for this co-creation. So if you turn on the camera, that would be great. And I invite more questions.
Okay, Severo had her question. Is there anyone else that has a question that didn't put a Q in the chat? If you have a question.
Okay, there is a couple in the YouTube. Let me go back. Diane wanted to know, Max, did you ever get your request for a visit on the ship?
Not as I remember. I still wait. I'm surprised they promised and never delivered. I asked everybody, like it was pretty much at the end of every conversation I was offering the visit, and meeting physically here would be also great. I haven't had that experience, and my explanation, I rationalize this because I know lots of people who physically met aliens, lots. I ran in Rochester, I ran the experiencers support group, so we had lots of experiencers. I think the reason they don't allow me to remember or physically meet someone in the physical because I am fully public. Whatever happens to me gets on Facebook within seconds and on YouTube right away. And I think they want me to be still able to function in mainstream as a scientist. And if I start talking about my experience with the aliens, maybe that would diminish my ability to speak there. But I had my experience where Lakesh, an alien, visited me here, and I didn't see physically anything. I opened eyes, I didn't see physically anything, but the presence was absolutely extraordinary. He was in my body and I was in his body, so that was for 15 minutes was absolutely undeniable. I was awake, I wasn't on drugs, it was very clear, and there was a lot of accompanying vibrations and feelings that I was actually in his body, which was very different, and it was very memorable. It was around 2014, I would say. Yep, so I had some of that. So I have enough for me to experience, but not enough to brag on YouTube.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions in YouTube.
Please, we have another 45 minutes. I would enjoy more questions.
Yeah, I do have a question. What is your view now of, say, the colonies and that work from the beginning of Human Colony, that focus? What do you view it as now? Like, how do you view that now?
Just a sec. Nothing changed radically. I think we are in a very good shape. So for those who are not following the story about human colonies, essentially our friend Eliran Thakur, at the end of September 2013, 10 years ago, approved basically the idea of the colonies and said that they would welcome people visiting, and that she would welcome personally us visiting, and she puts an invitation for us to volunteer and visit. And that was the excitement, basically. And Eliron, there on the ship in the solar system, would invite us to visit. So that created excitement, and we were all waiting for that to happen. We were applying, talking through Jim, and actually there were other channelers who also connected to the same energy, and I think that was pretty real. But most of the visits, I think, were spiritual. There was pretty much no evidence that the visits were physical. And the stories were continuing to come in through one channeler and other channelers. And I think that was pretty real, but since much of this alien group are in another dimension, when they come to our dimension, it's not that physical. So I did the channeling at Jim for many years. I stopped only a few months ago because I just got a job and I just don't have time. And I get my own connection, which is plenty, so I don't need to have Jim there to talk. But I would happy to continue whenever I have time. So I was having that conversation going for 10 years. And then recently, like when I started diving into the nature of evil, somehow it felt natural to listen to Russian channelers. And surprise, I found extraordinary Russian channelers. And they were pretty much the same as me and Jim, a questioner and a channeler in a trance state, inviting pretty much the same entities, more Russians, but I know this historical figure, so for me it's even more related. And but their focus was mostly on the dark side. When I would meet with the aliens, I would say, what is your relation to God? What's your beliefs? Do you see God up there? And do you know how someone higher, can I talk to them? How do they see God? Like archangels, how do you see God? What's your understanding of God? So I was always focusing up, but still it had to be relevant to our immediate reality. So I wasn't interested in working too far away from us. I wanted like that connection from here to there. So it was astral. By the way, Ram Das is pretty dismissive about astral miracles. He knows about them, he uses them, he is fine with them, but he says astral is just a distraction. Focus on the divine, the ultimate unity. All right, so the Russians are mostly like talk to any level and then they ask about what's down there. And there is a lot of things down there, and connecting to that energy is pretty harsh for me. It's hard to handle, but I had to kind of learn that. And anyway, this Russian channel was confirming so many things that Jim said. It was just extraordinary. So same people we meet, like Blavatsky, Rerick, Marilyn Monroe, Stalin, and few other historical figures. Jim also, I spoke to them through Jim. So the same energy came. It's very recognizable. It's very true. So I have a huge confirmation that whatever comes from Jim is real. Now, the updates on colonies, like human colonies, basically places on the ships where we humans meet with the aliens and mingle together. We are being trained, they study us, they learn about us. That story is true. Now, the most recent news I get from Exopolitics with Michael Salla. I think his perception is largely true, maybe 70 to 80% true, maybe more, but at least 70% true. So I listen to his updates pretty seriously, kind of tune it down a little bit, but not a lot. I think on astral planes it's very true, and on physical some of that manifests here, but on astral plane it's very true. So he doesn't make things up, and he's a very good researcher, exceptional researcher. I'm very happy he's now giving away all the information in real time on YouTube. It's extraordinary. So there are updates. We are moving forward. Essentially, the main news in the recent year was that the Galactic Federation, the Alien Alliance, works with American and allied governments to hand off the work of defending the solar system from invaders. So until now it was the aliens which were guarding the solar system from invaders. Now it is humans from Earth governments plugged in, and the program develops that they will participate in the defense from official, not from secret government, but from the official military forces. And obviously, I'm watching the Congress hearings with what's the name of the guy, with David, forgot the name.
Oh, David. What's his name from the ancient?
Yeah, alien hearings.
Wilcox.
No, David Wilcock, but no, the Congress hearings. I'm just
David Grush.
Grush, yeah,
Okay.
David Grush, yeah. So Grush is cool. Obviously, there is an agenda very clear there that they will prepare alien invasion. So for people to be scared by an fake alien invasion, people have to believe in aliens. Otherwise, it wouldn't be interesting. But I hope it will be just another fluke, another slight fear, like their recent events of 21. They were not as scary as it was portrayed in the media. The total death toll on the planet was very limited, and the economy didn't fall completely. So hopefully it will be of that limited scale destruction. But as a result, I think the humanity will be awakened to the existence of the aliens, and after that, the positive aliens are waiting for us to collectively, officially invite them. And I think that will likely happen after the fake invasion. And I think I answered the question. I am ready for more. We have about 40 minutes. Elga.
If we don't, we don't have to go 40 minutes. Just if we run out of.
I can talk by myself, but I would be happy if there are questions.
No, I understand. So, does anyone have any questions for Max? Michelle wanted to make a comment about the colonies. Go ahead, Michelle.
Hi, Max. Hi, everyone. Yes, I've had an interesting experience when I asked like the night before to go to the colonies to practice telepathy or whatever it was. I think at that time, telepathy. I recall in my partial awake state being dropped off at my home on a ship. So they brought me home. I have that memory, that recollection. So I thought that was really cool.
When did it happen?
This would have been 2018, maybe. Yeah, it was some time ago. And
so it was physical for you.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Well, I don't think I think it was my light body that went, but I have that memory. I have that memory of being dropped off. Which, it's really cool. And I just wanted to mention as well that I speak to Takur in my mind, and I channel her light language. So we collaborate, and I'll say, okay, are you ready? And then I'll feel the energy come in, and then I'll speak the light language, the Lyran light language. So we have that connection. And I just thought I'd throw that out there because it was really cool. You know, I couldn't have made that up. It was really interesting. And she's a beautiful energy. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. I hear a lot of astral visits, but there were physical visits as well, and yeah, people got physical evidence, which is undeniable. And especially it's more impressive when this physical evidence happens to two people at once. People taken from two different places, they meet there, they see each other there, and then they have physical evidence like their clothing was switched or something like that. They both got each other's t-shirts or something like that. One of my friends was taken. He is a heavy smoker. He was taken for a lung operation. And someone else have seen him there, and he came back, and that was pretty profound for him.
What does that have to do with his smoking? Did he stop smoking or what?
I don't remember.
Because you mentioned that he was a heavy smoker, so I wondered if that had anything to do with, like, when did he come back and stop smoking, or?
He had after the operation, for several days there were effects which were very physically. He could sense that the operation was there, and I don't know what happened after that, but he had basically physical evidence that it was in the physical.
Okay. Safira has a question. Go ahead, Safira.
Thank you, Krishna Priya. Max, I wanted to thank you for your discussion before about my question. And when you were talking about a researcher online who has a lot of good information, are you talking about Michael Scala?
Michael Sala.
Sala, that's it.
Sala.
Oh, yeah.
And the channel is called, the keyword is exopolitics.
Right,
you
right.
cannot miss it.
Yeah, I've seen it. He had a French man who was with the SSP for a while and did different missions, and he was describing the actual med beds that they use there on the different places where they have their bases and such. It was fascinating. But there was something else I wanted to talk about. Okay, so I remember in 2016 that we were being promised. I remember because I left Human Colony for about a year, and I was working in Arizona, and I was doing some other stuff. And one reason I left is because I thought I met some people who are actually in service, humanity, and I was very impressed by that. And I felt like I and other light workers, we talk a lot about what it means to be a light worker, but there's a lack of service, like you and Karen were talking about the importance of service before. But anyway, so I left for a while. I came back, and when I came back, it was, I think, 2016, so thereabouts. And Takur was promising physical visits to the ship. That's what you were talking about just a moment ago. And then they kept promising, and we got all excited. And then first they said their machines weren't working, and then they said they're going to try again, and then we got all excited about it, and then it didn't happen. And then we find out sometime later that it was the separation agreement that was stopping them. So lo and behold, somehow they either remembered or were reminded that there's a separation agreement, and they can't take us, and we can't go there, or they can't come here. I'm a little skeptical about the separation agreement. I think it's the aliens who don't want us migrating to their planets. I'm not really. What do you think about that whole separation agreement concept? Because that is what they eventually admitted to the reason that we couldn't go. Even though you're saying they have taken people have been going here and there. So What do you think about that?
Oh, yeah. All right. I'm not. Can you explain that separation agreement? I missed that part completely. I wasn't following at that moment.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So it's supposedly because there were too many abductions going on that our government, said we're going to now, and also our planet was put somehow under quarantine. Maybe before that, I'm not exactly sure. But the concept is that there's a contract between alien nations and Earth that they can't come here anymore, nor can we go out there. And so that was established in 2005. So in 2016, Takura is promising that we're going to go visit her ship. I don't know if they had forgotten about the separation agreement, or I don't know what that was all about, but that's what basically the separation agreement is. At the moment, with the government meetings between the aliens and the U.S. government or international government officials, they're trying to do away with the separation agreement because it's too old and nobody wants it anymore. So I was wondering, I guess you hadn't heard about it until now, or you just didn't understand my question? Which one was that?
Yeah, I think that was huge disappointment. With lots of people left human colony. I was disappointed as well. It sounded like either Jim was channeling incorrectly, or the aliens are not as friendly, or they're not trustworthy. Since I researched channeling a lot before that, for me it was not a huge issue. That's just a very natural property of channeling. Things don't come together here as they should if we trust. If it was completely real, then how do you say that? If the physical, if this was actual physical real as our world is physical, then it shouldn't have happened. Basically, I don't apply the same rules to channeling as I would apply to physical conversations with physical people. If a person says something and then violates the promise, then he is like a bad liar or schizophrenic or something like that. I use the word schizophrenic in medical way. Basically, they are not physically in this reality. Their mind is not attached to this reality. So I allow a lot of schizophrenia to channeled messages. Essentially, they come from a very different dimension. Like Dizdu, Dizyakobu Dizduda, and Pentium, I asked them very thoroughly, and they operate in parallel they're from the same race, Yael, and they operate at about 7 timelines at the same time with the humanity. So it's not that their timeline is completely parallel to ours. It's the connection, the logical connections, the causative connections between our realities are fluid. So maybe in a parallel timeline that happened. It just didn't happen to you and I in this timeline. And after listening to a lot of Terence McKenna talks and other psychedelic talks, and after doing psychedelic trips, I done about maybe 15 mediocre trips, of which 10 mediocre plus 5 real full-blown trips. I realized that our reality is not real. We are in an illusion. So when we talk about aliens, it is not exactly the parallel timeline, and whatever happens between us and aliens doesn't have to match properly to what happens here. So I take it.
Thank you for that.
I take it very, very normally. For me, it's like working with angels, spirits, and aliens, your mind have to be like mine, complete mess. And then you're completely fine. Then you can be in a physical and in the alien world, which is also a physical and parallel dimensions, and you can be in an angelic world, in a spiritual dimension, in God's dimension, and it's all kind of doesn't have to logically match each other. It cannot, basically. The main take of spirit workers, these things don't logically match to each other. They have to contradict each other. It's absolutely normal for the alien things to contradict our physical dimension, and they don't have to be always true. They cannot be always true. You have to learn to work with something barely tangible. Like in biology, that training in biology really helps. Like I did experiments for many years, and you know that miracles happen in the lab pretty much every day. Like computer glitch, the tubes exchange between each other. Like recently, a file that I created, like I work on presentation, and just file disappeared from all the computers, not in trash. It just disappeared, and I think it normally like that things happen. We just switch to another timeline. Things just don't. If you're paying attention, this reality is not real. It's illusional, and it's just fine. So it doesn't make the aliens less real. It just means you cannot take the promises literally. We are getting closer for sure. More humans awaken. More governments become more transparent. Clearly, there is the hugest event in alien world that happened was with David Grush. Just before that, the governments, maybe half a year before that, so it's like a year ago, the governments, the mass media changed the tone from making fun of all UFOs. They just taken tone to stupid interest. Are these like blobs on the screen? Are these real? They like History Channel, whatever. Like they just, wow, can this be real? And they don't make any more steps. They don't research. They don't, like all these people talking. They are, at least they stop making fun of us. So the collective, and the global collective is controlled by mass media, and the whole shift happens now. The whole billions of humans start paying attention to the alien topic. So it enters the global consciousness, the collective consciousness of humanity gradually. And I believe the other world is very real. Our world is very real, but glitchy. I mean, that's a matrix. We are in a matrix. And now the plan is for this two worlds to come back. The aliens didn't go away. Like the whole history of humanity, the aliens were here. They're still here now. They're walking on the streets. Some of them are in a physical human bodies. Some of them are in pretend human bodies, holographic human bodies. But it's only that last few hundred years they were removed from the collective consciousness, and we went the Western way, basically the way of so-called science, where it became materialistic. Even God became super materialistic. So we are now coming back to allowing the aliens and the spirit back to the collective consciousness. I think it's very normal, and we are getting there pretty fast. Okay, names. How about we take a break for 2 minutes? Can we? All right, we are taking breaks for 2 minutes. Like now it's 9:40 my time, and 9:42 I come back.
Hello?
Max has taken a 2-minute break.
Okay, great. I'm sorry. I had to go to take a 2-minute break myself. So, all right. We'll just give it 2 minutes then. Perfect.
While we're waiting, I can share. I have full memory of going up to the main colony, the first colony. It was way back in the beginning, and I remember going walking actually down the corridors and looking out the window and seeing space. And they just took me around the ship and were just showing me around. Tukur was there, and there were 2 humans that were up there, Douglas, and I can't remember the other one, but they were also showing me around. I thought it was really interesting.
All right, I'm back. So we have Angie, Katvo, David, Little, Elga, Marlene, Mary, Michelle, Sephira. Do you have any questions at the moment? I can continue.
Yeah, we have about 10 minutes, I think, if you want to continue, or it's up to you. I think it would be good if you would give a summary. Basically, I mean, where do you think that you're going? Like, where is this leading you? Where are you heading, Max, in your pursuits now?
Thank you for asking. Right, I don't know. I will do whatever the universe, the divine consciousness wants from me. I'm playing alone. I have vague idea what they want from me. I was like every now and then, like very often, I sort of think that I have an idea and I try to move in that direction, and then I see that it's not what they want. So apparently I'm going through some lessons, and essentially it's not to achieve anything outside, and it's not to achieve anything inside. I see that there is some spiritual process going on the other side, and they just give me lessons one after another, and I see how they manipulate me. The manipulation is pretty clear. It's like I pay attention. Sometimes it is external. They manipulate people. Like a person who would normally do one thing would do just the opposite. Like a friend would completely ignore me, or the other way around. Someone, a person who doesn't have anything to do with me would be giving me some hints. There are some energies coming up which often are driving me in some direction. So I get hints from the angels when they want me to move in some direction. So when I see the drive, I kind of follow the drive, and then I feel if the drive is positive or negative. I also see that just the ego itself is an illusion, and the personality, the physical mind, is a construct which is also an illusion. The experience, the free will is an illusion. Everything is an illusion, and I can see how it's made, and I kind of play along. Like I can talk about how it is designed, but basically, it's a research how this illusionary life is designed, how the mind works, how the personality works. I kind of now can see how it's whoever created that life experience, how these entities, I think God created humans, how they design that human experience. And from hearing what channel messages say from the other side, it's very valuable. Essentially, we are here for a reason, and that experience is very cool, and it produces something very valuable, and we shouldn't undermine it. Whatever happens on the other side between lives is maybe important, but not much more important than what we have here. This experience on this planet at this time is super cool. Although it's illusionary, it's super cool, and it's a great creation, and we should value that. So I'm basically playing along, growing. Now I'm coming back to science. It's really hard to work on the presentation. I already made a series of discoveries that glue together, and I'm finishing it up this today and tomorrow, and then publishing it, and it will be presented in Brazil in a week as a recording, a video recording. It's now grew to over an hour, where I summarize my research, and it's a breakthrough into understanding of how their imperfection creates life. Imperfection, mostly it's imperfection between very pretty water structure, honeycomb water structure, and very pretty DNA structure. They don't like each other. They like partly and partly hate each other, so DNA can never find peace in the water. So DNA in water is always moving, and that's the basis for life, and that's the basis for consciousness, and that's the basis for yin and yang, and for illusion of time. Essentially, DNA constantly collapses its collapse of uncertainty, collapse of uncertain delocalized wave function. So quantum collapse of delocalization happens billions of billions times per second in the cell, and in the body it would be billions of trillions, something like that. Lots of zeros, very frequently, very very constantly, and that produces the illusion of movement in time. Essentially, we are like their non-living things on the planet, like the planet itself, the stones, water, and everything else. They are alive, but their consciousness, the God consciousness in them, is spread all over the timeline, and multiple timelines. There is like it's all over the place. And in living beings, the attention of God is moving along the timeline, is dragged forward, like you would, when you do skating, there is like a lift which you hold on to it, and then you go uphill on a snowy mountain, and that is the life illusion of time. Basically, with the body, the consciousness focuses on that the focus of consciousness goes onto the body and moves forward in time. Although it exists all at once, the consciousness moves forward in time. And then the main mechanism for that is the collapse of uncertainty in the DNA molecule and parts of the DNA molecule. So that together opens the door for deciphering the language of the human genome, which is 3 billion bases. We know the sequence already. We just need to understand what is written there. And now I got new tools to decipher that, and we got some patterns deciphered. I'm very excited about ChatGPT version 4. It's very smart, and the computer consciousness could have helped us decipher the spiritual vibrational code of the genome, but it couldn't talk to us in our language. Now ChatGPT is very smart, but also it can talk to us in our language. So the key now is to give it the information, the genomic sequence, and ask the right questions. It takes some effort, but it will be possible in the next few years to move in that direction, and then that will probably help us to decipher the vibrational and spiritual code of the genome. And that is obviously it's double-edged sword, because it will allow us to develop the new medicine, but also all negative things can be done to health and consciousness. But once the humanity awakens to the spiritual nature of the genome, then it will become possible to talk meaningfully about the danger of genetic engineering of humans. Genetic engineering of humans already happens full steam, and we're being genetically modified, the new humans being designed, designer humans, and that in one of the future timelines that will result in the creation of the Greys. The Greys are us in the future who genetically design us by removing the aggression but losing the connection to the emotions. And this way they collapsed their collective biofield, and then they became sick, and in the future they are decaying. That's why they come back for healthy genome and rehybridize from the future back to our healthy genome. So that path of genetically engineering ourselves destroyed the Atlantean civilization, and it could destroy our civilization by collapsing our collective biofield. And to prevent that, we need to decipher and understand the vibrational code of our genome and understand how collective biofield is designed. The gods who designed us, they knew that, but currently I don't think any humans understand that. Even the secret societies, I don't think they have the vibrational code of the genome. Although they mess it up, they don't have the code. So I think that's the key discovery for the 21st century that needs to happen, and I'm working on it pretty much single-handedly. There are two more people who understand, now 3 people who understand in detail the science which I'm doing, and about maybe 30 people who understand in general the direction. So now I will present that as a presentation, so it will be all spelled out. It's already, the main part already exists. Now I'm kind of wrapping it up. So that's where I am moving, and that is
in Russian or in English?
In English. That's inseparable from trying to understand the metaphysics of that. It's like you have to pay huge attention to metaphysics to be able to work on the spiritual code of the DNA. And David Swami, present here, is following me closely. So thanks, David.
Thanks, Max.
Will we be able to hear that lecture, Max?
Yeah, I will post it everywhere. I'll post it on Hucolo as well.
Oh, thank you.
I made it for general public because it's made for the conference in Brazil, which is made mostly of healers and researchers of healing. So their understanding of DNA is pretty generic. So I explain everything from scratch. It's complex, but I'm sort of walking through for over an hour. I'm walking through main points.
Okay. We're at the end. We've
Sure.
reached our time limit, so
We can do this the ritual of closing if you want.
okay.
I have I can talk to you for another many days, but today I didn't have any agenda. I just sort of the intention was to play along.
Why don't we have Angie do the announcement, and why don't we have you close it out with a beautiful blessing and ritual, however you want to take it.
Did you say me closing?
Yeah, I wanted to have you close with like a nice chant, and then
Oh,
we'll
chant,
have
yes.
we'll have Angie do the announcement first, and then if you can chant.
Oh, Angie first, sure. All right.
And just as a reminder, next week Jim will be back, and is it Jim?
Yes.
Yeah, Jim will be back, and then after that Will, and then after that Jim, and so okay. But anyways, Max, thank you so much for bringing us up to date where you are. It's a beautiful journey you're on, and it's beautiful to see you exploring all the Hinduism and everything. So you have to come to India while I'm here. You would love it.
I'm afraid of stomach bugs. I'm very sensitive to them. We visited New Orleans, and it just was very hard on me.
Don't get a stomach bug. You can drink RO water. You'll be fine. Really, don't worry. I'm here all the time. I never get stomach bug. I'm stomach bugless. So
We can meet in Bhakti temple here.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, Angie, go ahead with your announcement.
Thank you. All right, we have our gathering scheduled. It is next year, next August 8th through the 12th, 2024. I know that a lot of today was talked about, the colonies, the aliens, how, but when we come together, we are all, in essence, have connections outside of Earth. And when this retreat or this gathering, not retreat, but this gathering is not so much about classes and things like that, but coming together in oneness, coming together as bringing our star seeds to us. It is $6.95 a person. It's all inclusive, lodging and food and camaraderie. It is I forgot what I was going to say. Train of thought lost. Back to, if you're interested, please go online on our website, humancolony.org. The registration form is there, as well as our flyer. We are also have it on our Facebook page. And if you're just interested, classes at hucolo.org, and I will get information out to you. Max, I'd love you to be there as part
I'll
of
try.
as our gathering. I would love that to have you there. I'm sure Jim would love to have you there.
Sure.
Okay, perfect. All right, so Max, why don't you give us a beautiful blessing as we go out, and then we will say good night to everyone or good morning to everyone, wherever you are in the world. And thank you for everyone that was here that hasn't been here before. It's lovely to have you. So thank you for joining with us. Okay, Max.
All right. One thing which I should have mentioned, I didn't have a chance to pronounce. In addition to listening to Ram Das, I highly recommend Alan Watts. Alan Watts is super. When Ram Das is focused on one thing, which is the message of Nim Karoli Baba, that message of service, love, and unity, Alan Watts is my type of scientist who went everywhere, discovered everything, and pronounced everything. And they were friends. They took LSD together. They were research peers who compared the notes and compared the studies of each other. They spoke from the same stage and had the same audiences. So Krishna Das's workshops are great. Ram Das, Alan Watts, and Terence McKenna. These are the four names: Krishna Das, Ram Das, Terence McKenna, Alan Watts. Yeah, four names which I highly recommend. Check them out and see what is your path and what is you attracted to. But my path is the path of the research. And one more thing I wanted to mention was not that my mind is completely messy. It's like the way of my intuitive approach is to inhibit all the visible thoughts and spread all over the place. Basically, that's the unity step. I'm reunited with everything and inhibit all the strong thoughts. But in mind, I keep the question. That's time to finish. And in mind, I keep my question, and then from that unity, I then crystallize the answer. And the answer is very, very conscious, and that there is a lot of labor on working on that. And then obviously you check it against all the notes, do all the homework. In science, we are proud of doing our homework. Do your homework. That's absolutely important. You have to really investigate the area and become an expert in the area. Know all the names, know all the teachers, and then from that homework you basically ask the question again and again, get the new answer. So create a mess, and then from that mess grow on that mess, grow the answer as a plant. All right, with that recommendation, I will do my chant, and I will turn on the reverberation, a little echo, which helps me to chant.
That's beautiful, Max. Thank you so much. All right, that concludes this week's webinar. Thank you so much, Max. It was so beautiful to have you here today.
Thank you.
All right, so next week we will have Jim, and so we'll see everybody